Get ready to witness the most awe-inspiring and bone-crushing UFC knockouts that will leave you speechless. Today, we are going to take a look at the top 10 knockouts in UFC history. These are the finishes that made us jump out of our seats, gasp in awe, and marvel at the power and skill of these fighters. Let's get started. Number 10. Anderson Silva vs Vitor Belfort. We begin our countdown with a classic clash between two Brazilian legends, Anderson Silva and Vitor Belfort. This was a highly anticipated fight for the UFC middleweight title, as both men were known for their striking prowess and knockout ability. The fight took place at UFC 126 in February 2011. After a tense and cautious start, Silva unleashed a devastating front kick to Belfort's face, sending him crashing to the mat. Silva followed up with some punches to seal the deal and retain his belt. It was one of the most spectacular and unexpected knockouts ever seen in the UFC, and it cemented Silva's legacy as one of the greatest fighters of all time. Number 9. Francis Ngannou versus Alistair Overeem. Next, we have a heavyweight showdown between Francis Ngannou and Alistair Overeem. This was a fight that many expected to be a slugfest, as both men were known for their incredible power and aggression. The fight took place at UFC 218 in December 2017. After a brief exchange of strikes, Ngannou landed a monstrous uppercut that lifted Overeem off his feet and knocked him out cold. It was one of the most brutal and scary knockouts in UFC history, and it earned Ngannou a title shot against Stipe Miocic. Number 8. Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo. Moving on, we have a featherweight title fight between Conor McGregor and Jose Aldo. This was a fight that had a lot of hype and bad blood, as McGregor had been trash-talking and taunting Aldo for months. The fight took place at UFC 194 in December 2015. As soon as the fight started, McGregor rushed forward and threw a left hook that connected with Aldo's chin, dropping him to the floor. McGregor followed up with a couple of hammer fists to finish the job and become the new champion. It was the fastest knockout in UFC title fight history, lasting only 13 seconds. It was also a shocking and stunning upset, as Aldo had been undefeated for 10 years and was widely regarded as the best featherweight of all time. Number 7. Dan Henderson versus Michael Bisping. Next up, we have a middleweight rematch between Dan Henderson and Michael Bisping. This was a fight that had a lot of history and animosity, as Henderson had knocked out Bisping in spectacular fashion at UFC 100 in July 2009. The fight took place at UFC 199 in June 2016. Bisping was the champion and was looking for revenge, while Henderson was the challenger and was looking for a repeat. The fight was a back-and-forth war, with both men landing hard shots and dropping each other. In the second round, Henderson landed his signature right hand that sent Bisping flying to the canvas. Henderson followed up with a diving elbow that smashed Bisping's face. However, Bisping somehow survived and managed to recover and win the fight by unanimous decision. Number 6. Lyoto Machida versus Randy Couture. Moving on, we have a light heavyweight bout between Lyoto Machida and Randy Couture. This was a fight that pitted two former champions and legends of the sport, Machida and Couture. The fight took place at UFC 129 in April 2011. After a cautious and tactical first round, Machida surprised Couture with a jumping front kick that landed flush on his jaw, knocking him out instantly. It was a beautiful and graceful knockout that resembled something out of a karate movie. It was also a fitting farewell for Couture, who retired after the fight at the age of 47. Number 5. Edson Barbosa vs Dariush. Next, we have a lightweight bout between Edson Barbosa and Dariush. This was a fight that showcased the striking skills and creativity of Barbosa, who was a rising star in the division. The fight took place at UFC 142 in January 2012. After a competitive and entertaining fight, Barbosa unleashed a spinning wheel kick that caught Edson on the side of his head, knocking him out stiff. It was one of the most spectacular and acrobatic knockouts in UFC history, and it earned Barbosa a $65,000 bonus for knockout of the night. Number 4. Quinton Jackson versus Ricardo Arona. Moving on, we have a light heavyweight bout between Quinton Jackson and Ricardo Arona. This was a fight that took place in Pride, a Japanese MMA organization that was later acquired by the UFC. The fight took place at Pride Critical Countdown 2004, in June 2004. Arona was a grappling specialist who was looking to take Jackson down and submit him. Jackson was a powerful striker who was looking to keep the fight standing and knock Arona out. In the first round, Arona managed to secure a triangle choke on Jackson, who was in trouble. However, Jackson lifted Arona up and slammed him down with incredible force, knocking him out cold. It was one of the most violent and impressive knockouts in MMA history, and it showed the strength and explosiveness of Jackson. Number 3. Jorge Masvidal versus Ben Askren. Next, we have a welterweight bout between Jorge Masvidal and Ben Askren. This was a fight that had a lot of hype and trash talk, as Masvidal and Askren had been exchanging insults and challenges for months. The fight took place at UFC 239 in July 2019. As soon as the fight started, Masvidal sprinted across the cage and threw a flying knee that smashed Askren's head, knocking him out in 5 seconds. It was the fastest knockout in UFC history, and it was a stunning and savage display of timing and accuracy by Masvidal. Number 2. Holm vs. Ronda Rousey. Moving on, we have a women's bantamweight title fight between Holm and Ronda Rousey. This was a fight that shocked the world, as Rousey was the undefeated champion and the biggest star in the sport, while Holm was the underdog and the challenger. The fight took place at UFC 193 in November 2015. Holm dominated the fight with her superior striking and footwork, keeping Rousey at bay and landing hard shots. In the second round, Holm landed a head kick that knocked Rousey out cold, ending her reign and her mystique. It was one of the biggest upsets and knockouts in UFC history, and it catapulted Holm to stardom. Number 1. Yair Rodriguez versus Chan Sung Jung. And finally, we have a featherweight bout between Yair Rodriguez and Chan Sung Jung. This was a fight that was an instant classic, as Rodriguez and Jung put on a show of heart and skill for 5 rounds. The fight took place at UFC Fight Night 139 in November 2018. Both men exchanged strikes and takedowns, and neither one gave up. The fight was so close that it could have gone either way. In the final seconds of the 5th round, Jung rushed forward to land one last punch, but Rodriguez ducked and threw a backward elbow that connected with Jung's chin, knocking him out at the buzzer. It was one of the most amazing and unbelievable knockouts in UFC history, and it earned both fighters a $50,000 bonus for Fight of the Night. And that's it for our top 10 knockouts in UFC history. We hope you've enjoyed this journey through the annals of MMA history. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel.